there was punch-ups that potentially were going to become a massive issue. But I didn't want people to throw their life away over emotion, because we've already had that happen. And it's not going to bring Josh back, and it's not going to represent Josh in a correct way, and it's certainly not going to benefit you. Blood spilt on the street, another life lost, another family destroyed. Is that going to really remove your pain? Josh was very fortunate, because the love people had for Joshua meant that in the most difficult situation, and in a situation that sometimes young people are unable to step up, unable to stand united for the right reason, you know, the way people perceive statements, speaking to the police. We had some very brave young people that knew that Joshua deserved justice. I think people think Depzman had millions of pounds has gone to me, and I'm living life. Now, Joshua doesn't make money from the music industry. The music industry made money from Joshua.
People, you're now watching the Daily Devotion podcast, the space where we connect and engage with creatives from various industries to share insights on their journey thus far. I have never actually truly, met anybody with that amount of fortitude to be able to carry on, but like carrying everybody else. And we just spoke like, are you your own worst enemy? Are you?
Yeah, because I don't, I think it's very difficult for me to transition past, it's me and Josh. It was me and Josh, A&E, police stations, courtrooms. It wasn't, oh, can somebody come with me? Can somebody drive me? Can somebody support me? Because there was only one person in the world that could manage Joshua's behaviour, and that was me. So that unit we're like this, and the spirit of Josh is still like that with me.
It can't be broken,
It can't be broken. So when people look at me and see either Depzman's mum, Alison Cope, they look, and 9 times out of 10 they get it very wrong. Look how strong she is. Look how okay she is. Look what she's achieved. But have I? You might think I have, but that's because I'm not brave enough to actually show you what I'm really feeling. What I'm really feeling is I don't want to be here anymore. But I need to stay. I need to stay for the people that do love me, and I need to stay because there's a young man who's no longer here that doesn't have a voice. And that voice needs to come from me. And it's to tell the world you can live in pain, you can love in pain, and you can find a future regardless of what's been done to you. And his voice still needs to be heard through me. And so I will stay, and I will continue, and I will continue.
Powerful stuff.
Powerful. Have you, since the situation, have you been in contact, or has the other boy's parents or anyone in that family been in contact with you?
Not in a positive way, is all I can say about that. I hope one day I meet the young man that killed Josh. Again, that's a very difficult and long process, and we'll see what happens around that. And the main reason for that is because I missed out on hearing his voice, hearing his vibe, feeling his vibe, and truly seeing what kind of person he was. I want to be able to make my own mind up on him. The public perception, the rumours, the various different stories, I just want to know the truth. And that can only come from his mouth, and from my perception of him. So that will definitely be something that will be looked at. Because of the emotion behind it, then we've kept a very, a distance between myself, his family, etc., just because it's so difficult for both parties. So, what they have to go through, what I have to go through, is just nothing but pain. So to add conflict on top of pain is unnecessary.
And you speak of within that whole period, there wasn't any bloodshed on the streets. There weren't no, you know, odd little punch up or retaliation.
There was punch ups that potentially were going to become
Big,
a massive issue. But I didn't want people to throw their life away over emotion, because we've already had that happen. And it's not going to bring Josh back, and it's not going to represent Josh in a correct way, and it's certainly not going to benefit you. Blood spilt on the street, another life lost, another family destroyed. Is that going to really remove your pain? Is that going to make it okay that Josh has died, or does it continue? And I think once the young people realised that it needed to come out in a different way, it came out to the best of people's ability, and it's in a lot of people still. I just hope that they've got to a point in their life where they're able to manage it slightly better. And I can't think of one person who isn't on an uphill kind of journey. They're not within the drugs, the alcohol, that element, you know, they've come past that and they're moving in a positive direction.
So it's like, well, there's a lot, you know, 'cause I'm thinking, you know, you've just lost your son. You've got the world, the UK, you know, the media, let's have it right, you know. Did it ever feel like harassment, like at any point?
I think I've been really lucky. I know I keep being like really positive, and I'm not. I can be really negative when I want to be. The media, you know, when something like this happens, the media, the story, the this, and then they see the profile and they're like, oh, this is gonna, you know, have views online. This is gonna sell newspapers. But I don't think what they expected was such a positive outpouring towards Josh. So normally they try really hard, don't they, to throw in the negative element and feed that narrative. But because the overwhelming emotion towards Josh was so positive, it quickly fell on its face. So in a way, I haven't felt harassment, and I've been incredibly blessed when it came to the media, because they couldn't really harass me. And if I'm there saying, well, yeah, we got arrested, and yeah, they share that, it's not really a story, is it? They're not breaking out, they're not telling the world anything, because everyone knew anyway. So they were like, okay, well, that's not very interesting, is it? Got this young man, a lot of people love him, a lot of positive comments. Next story then. So I was very fortunate that there wasn't that element of harassment. There was certain moments where they tried to put certain spins on it, and all I had to tell myself was, I know Josh. The people that love him know Josh. You know, like if I go on YouTube now, you will see every horrible comment under the sun, every positive comment under the sun. He died. He deserved it. Glad he got stabbed up. Then you'll have...
How do you deal with that?
It's social
that's not
media.
Your son. It's not your son.
If somebody genuinely believes that, we then have to look at, well, why do you think that? And it could be, and we have to be honest about this, was Josh a dickhead to them? Was Josh in a moment in his life where he punched them in the face? So they, of course, are going to think, well, you are a dickhead. In which case they have a right to think Josh was a dickhead. But if they're saying it just as a keyboard warrior, then does their opinion really matter?
No, it doesn't hold no weight.
You know, so not everyone can love Josh, not everyone can like Josh. If people dislike Josh, 9 times out of 10, Josh would have given them a reason to dislike them. So what can I say to that?
Yeah.
How could I possibly argue with that? And Josh would have happily given them a reason to dislike him. So I support that reason.
It's beautiful how you have this thing that is still permeating, this positive kind of, you know, spin on life. Like, things happen to people in life in different ways, and the world makes them a completely different person. And that just becomes them as a result of the circumstance. And I feel like that is completely understandable. You know, you've not let that happen.
But that has happened. I've allowed a situation to change me. And that situation was Josh. And he changed me. And he made me the best person.
See, bro, that spin again.
But it depends.
You're tough.
But you know,
you're
it depends.
You're tough.
He gave me every difficulty. He enabled me to face trauma. I suffered, I was in pain, and in came this little boy that made it incredibly difficult for me, and he ignited something in me. Pain, trauma, difficulties. We have to enable people to live with that positively. It can be an absolute blessing, and I think that I wouldn't have my positive spin on life isn't me. My positive spin on life is Josh, who that represents and who I am to him. There will be nothing but positivity in everything that comes out of my mouth in relation to my son, my journey with Josh, my journey without Josh. If you ask me about Alison and you ask me, is that all positive and is everything great and is it all wonderful? Absolutely not. It's horrendous. It's horrendous being me. It's horrendous feeling the pain I feel. It's horrendous having to live being me. But I've got Josh.
It's that.
And I had Josh. And I look at my life and I think, not everyone had that love, and not everyone has that love. And, you know, there's a lot of things around the whole Depzman thing that really make me angry, because a lot of people just treat him like he's a public commodity, and they forget behind Depzman was Josh, behind Josh was me. So things happen and things are done, but how lucky was I to have him? How lucky was I to have that little boy, and how grateful am I? Grateful more than anything I've ever been grateful for in my life, that he gave me this skill, gave me this strength, and gave me this ability in my heart to love, when perhaps I wouldn't have had that without him.
I know I keep going back to like the police and stuff. Like, how did how was the police during the investigation? Because normally, you know, cordon off the road, take the body, autopsy. Like, we don't know who the murderer is, or there's so much unsolved murders. How did it come about that the perpetrator in himself was actually caught? Was it through the CCTV, because you speak on the CCTV? Was it statements? Like, how did he, obviously didn't hand himself in, because
He did.
He did hand himself in. Okay, my mistake.
No, it's fine.
My mistake.
It's fine.
I thought he just went guilty.
He went not guilty.
Not guilty. Yeah. Trial.
I sound like I'm being positive. I'm not. I'm just telling the truth. Josh was very fortunate, because the love people had for Joshua meant that in the most difficult situation, and in a situation that sometimes young people are unable to step up, unable to stand united for the right reason, you know, the way people perceive statements, speaking to the police. We had some very brave young people that knew that Joshua deserved justice, and were able together to give enough information to enable a conviction. I also think the profile of the case made sure that the police did everything they could to contain the public anger. And I think an unsolved case with such public perception would have been incredibly dangerous. So a lot of hard work was done. I would hope that was done in every case, but I don't think it always is. And I think that they made sure that they did everything they could to get what they needed to have a conviction. I think the young man that stabbed Josh, you've just stabbed somebody that people are not going to accept. That, not that anyone accepts when someone's killed, but you have just suddenly put yourself in such a dangerous situation, and there will be many people that want to find you. And it's actually safer for you to hand yourself in and attempt to get away with it than it is to be out on the street, paranoid, waiting, scared. So he did hand himself in.
After how long?
After Joshua had passed away, probably about 2 hours.
And then how long was the period between, you know, the initial arrest where he handed himself in and then
It was...
the trial? Because
I
it's
had
like,
this
it's non-stop.
I had this conversation with the police a couple of weeks ago. You know, they will never agree with me and they never will say it was done incredibly quickly, but I believe it was. He was charged on the same day as Joshua's death. The funeral was within 3 weeks. The plea hearing, guilty, not guilty, was within 3.5 months, and the conviction was within 6 months. And he was sentenced on the same day as conviction. They needed to get this case done and dusted.
To get wrapped up.
Get wrapped up. We've got a conviction. Everyone chill now and let's move on.
Is there an element when you say there was very much, this is nothing against the police, because I feel that that they did do as much as they could have done. Is a lot of that because of, you know, the nature, his profile, as you said, the people don't understand that these things, it's government costs. Are there elements that you start to feel like, okay, then if he'd have still been your son, he's still your son. If he wasn't Depzman, would they have had the same, you know, impetus to wrap things up?
They will say, of course. I hope it would be of course. I hope any young person that loses their life gets the same level of investigation. Do I think Joshua got a much more thorough investigation? Yes, I do. I think the cost regarding the public was too high risky just to allow it. And I also think there were other elements thrown in. Because Joshua wasn't affiliated, he wasn't gang affiliated, he wasn't affiliated to a certain area, Joshua had friendship groups within every single area within the West Midlands, London, Manchester, Sheffield. So if you're going to piss a group of people off, you're not pissing one group off, you are pissing off many, many, many different kinds of people. Within that group of people, you will have some very, very influential, very dangerous, very emotional and very hurt people. So when we look at the bigger picture, we're not dealing with one death, we're dealing with a high-risk situation. Are we going to really allow that high-risk situation to deal with itself and then no. When Josh's body was in the funeral home, any person that went to view Joshua's body and show their respects, they were asked their name, their surname, their date of birth. Why would that be?
That doesn't happen.
Because
that doesn't happen.
Who are you? Who are you going to be? What problem could you be? And I said, you need to stop that. Stop asking his friends what their surnames are. There was that. There was a lot of intel, a lot of death threats, a lot of situations. And I think they must have thought, hang on a second. There was also potentially the cost element, because halfway through the trial, and again, I didn't want any of my family to attend the trial, not to protect them from the pain, because it meant I couldn't focus on what I was having to deal with. So I wasn't supported by my family. I wasn't held. I wasn't comfortable. It was like, leave me be. I need to focus on what I need to focus on. There was always that underlying threat from the courts and the police that if the young people that surround you show any kind of emotion, verbal outbursts, crying, anger, we're going to shut down this trial. And you might not be able to attend, Alison. So it was, in a way, it was like being blackmailed. It was like, you control them, otherwise it'll be you that is hurt even more. So I did that. With the trial, they're showing footage of Joshua slipped on the floor, and that is such a difficult thing. At that moment, My role was to turn and reassure it's okay. That's Trump, because if I didn't, I couldn't leave them to their own devices because I was being told, if they kick off, you're going to miss this, Alison.
It's crazy that, you know, because it was like your role was to help other people govern their emotions, but again, I go back to it again, no one was governing yours. Or there must have been there must have been something, I don't, or if you're a spiritual person at all, but I think that you're intrinsically connected to your son. Like, it's
I
just...
I am. I am.
Regardless.
And the thing with, again, being my own worst enemy, there were certain pockets of moments where there was nothing but emotion coming out of me. There was a number of incidents where I just was screaming on the ground, surrounded by shell-shocked children, because whether they be 18, 19, 22, 24, they are still young people who are suddenly dealing with a screaming, grieving mother, and they were just like, what the hell? How would they possibly know how to comfort me? They'd be like, it's all right. But in reality, how could they? And then other things were happening, the bullshit, the lies, the rumours, the difficulties thrown in. You know, the whole reason I met with the police a number of weeks ago is because I was getting to the point when I was sick of not knowing what was real. I've had 4 people claim to hold him in his last moments of consciousness. That's not true. I've been told he was slashed multiple times. That's not true. He gurgled blood. He was groaning. He was saying certain things. 2 out of the 3 aren't true. And I said to police, you need to tell me the things you didn't tell me in the trial. I've got members of the public coming up to me telling me things that I don't know if they're true or not. I need to know the truth. So that's where a lot of that started a couple of weeks ago. So
this is 8.5 years later.
Yeah, within all that pain, I don't think the police thought I'd bounce back and say, hang on a second, you need to tell me this, because, you know, they probably thought, oh, she's her again. But I need to know, and so I will ask, and I have a right to know. It's not to cause them any problems, it's just like I would like to know. You know, and then certain things happened, like, you know, which is a normal process, but when you're in the middle of it, you don't know what's normal when your child's been murdered. You know, you don't know. You live, you learn, you process, you move forward. You think, okay, everyone disappearing, the friends going. At the time, you're thinking, hang on a second. And there's that panic thinking, everyone said they'd be there. And now you look back and think, well, it's good they've moved forward. It's good they've transitioned. That's what I actually wanted. But it was hard to process that and move forward. And then my mum passed away. And then my stepdad passed away. And as young people, how difficult it would be for them to think, well, we didn't know how to deal with what she's lost. Then she's lost her mum. And now this. And you sense that, you think that the ones that were left now have thought, how do we deal? It's incredibly difficult for a human being to know how to deal with a person that's grieving, a person that's lost their child, because when somebody loses their job, when somebody loses their car, their home even, there's that period of such difficulty. Support them, guide them, help them get through it. You will get through it. You can rebuild. When you lose your child, every time you see that person, it's the same story. I haven't got him anymore. I'm heartbroken. It's like, how many times do people want to hear that? Because they know if they come and speak to me in 5 years, it's not going to be okay. I won't be in a better place. Things won't be okay. They won't be able to say, you've got through it, well done, everything's okay. Now look what you've rebuilt. How can I rebuild a life with the one thing I can never get back? So how difficult is it for other people to keep coming back to see my pain?
Yeah, I feel that at a deeper level. Yeah, that's... This is why I'm conflicted, like, again, because
can I just close that window? Because I'm about to get
Yeah,
hot
good
down here.
chilling. Yeah,
And at
cool.
my age, could be fake. It'll be on your,
Oh,
but you're
behave.
on hands and you can let the world know. I've killed her.
Behave.
Then there'll be t-shirts and all kinds coming out.
Gosh.
A couple of tracks.
The lot.
The lot. She was such a strong woman. She's now with Josh smoking weed on a cloud. No, and I'm really not. But yeah, sorry.
Popping Ciroc.
Yeah.
In a Henny.
Yeah.
Popping Ciroc in a Henny.
What was one of your... I know you probably have loads of happy memories, but just briefly, one of your happiest memory, or the one that's still at the highest, or the one that's at the top of your head, one of the happiest memories.
There was so many happy moments, but more of a kind of general happiness is to see his happiness, to see, you know, I've said it before, the clouds just cleared, and that high alert of pain, just the calm just overcame him, and you could really feel it was like hands of love were just coming out of him and just clinging on. And you know, and that's something that I'm just so blessed to have seen and felt. So many moments with Josh, you just think, what the hell? But you know, through his pain, his tears and his anger, we just had a ball. I'd hear him crying in his bedroom, 3 o'clock in the morning. What do? Do the only thing I knew to do, which was like text him, because to approach someone when they're in pain can F off, leave me alone, you get out of my room. I said, I'm going to 24-hour at Tesco's. Come with me. Let's get a Lucozade and a cream cake. And I would pay for that moment of distraction. We'd be outside, we'd be running up and down the road, water bombing each other, and all of a sudden, that pain wasn't in his head. That pain was, I'm getting Lucozade. I'm going to go get cream cake. We're in a taxi, off we're going to the shop. Running around the shop, buying loads of shite we didn't need, spending loads of money that was unnecessary. And in that moment, he came back. And that, there's many, many times, Ibiza, Ayia Napa, holidays, weekends, travel, just moments that he could see she's by my side no matter what. And that is not just one memory, it's just a general existence that, you know, we had. And, you know, he was just the funniest person, so funny, so inappropriate, so difficult, but he was mine. So all of it together, you know, all of it, there wasn't, if you put me in a police station with him kicking off, being handcuffed, being shoved to the ground, you put us on a beach in Ibiza watching the sunset, drinking cocktails, both those memories are as precious to me, because his journey made him who he was, and that wouldn't have been that without that. So to have it all, I was incredibly blessed to have.
Alison, can I just say thank you so much for being you, you know?
Just
Yes, thank you so much for being you.
Thank you.
Remarkable,
I'm alright.
Remarkable. Wow.
Don't worry, there'll be people watching and say, oh, she's begging it. They will, that's what they say.
Begging
Living
what?
off Depzman's name. People think what happens is...
Do you get that?
Oh my God. What I get is, I'm not going to go into all the kind of negative side of it, but I get, I think people think Depzman had millions of pounds has gone to me, and I'm living life. Now, Joshua doesn't make money from the music industry. The music industry made money from Joshua, but there's no, let's support his mum. But that, again, was a problem. Whatever, your karma will be your karma. Got no control over that. I have to transition and still be who I am to Josh. That's not a problem. From that, people then think, all she does is talk about Josh. And, you know, she loves the limelight. She loves the press interviews. She loves, you know, oh, Depzman's mum. Those people that say that do not understand what it means to be Joshua's mum, what it means to have the public profile as Depzman's mum. Their opinion has hurt me. Their opinion has made me cry, has made it difficult, and then I bounce back up, and then I'm brave enough and strong enough to think, you know what? You don't know me. you don't understand me, you don't walk by my side in this, so your opinion doesn't matter. So it's very much a process. When things come at me, I have to process it and release it and move forward. And that's just a constant thing, being in the public eye, being a public person's mum, and it brings an awful lot of pros, cons, beauty, pain, sorrow, happiness. If you have one, you have to learn how to deal with the other. And then time, experience, knowledge, and you learn to deal with it better.
The disrespect, you know. The disrespect.
But it's disrespect. It's disrespect out of lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. If you've got a real insight, you understand things better. But some people have no insight. They don't have the intelligence. They don't have the life experience, and I hope they never do. And I wish them the best. That if they want to judge, they want to criticise, that is definitely a reflection of them. Until they walk by my side in every decision, in every bit of pain, in every moment, they don't have a right. And that's fine. And that's a process. I've not always felt this able to see it for what it is, because it was new. You see, you learn, you move on.